Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. If all the things you never show, there are the things I want you to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to talk to you, and I'm the only one who speaks. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart to slow. But if you don't want to tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Here we go.
Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the live, and thank you for joining me and Jennifer at Coffindaffer today. And I'm so pleased and I'm so excited because I followed Jennifer since like a long time, like a few years ago now. It's been, to be honest. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation.
No, thank you. Thank you. And again, Sebastian Strong, Sebastian's Army, everyone that's been following this case and caring about this case, it means a lot. So now, before we get into anything here, Jennifer, I'm sitting here, like, was reading your like bio basically here, but it's always probably best if you just give us some insight into your background of an FBI agent.
Oh, sure. So I became an FBI agent in 1990. And after I graduated from Quantico, I was assigned to the Houston division where I worked organized crime. I also became the first woman on the Houston SWAT team and taught firearms alongside of my casework. Then I transferred to the Dallas office. I kid around and I say it was a prenup because I got married and my husband is not a big Houston fan. He said, "We got to go to Dallas." I said, "All right, we'll go to Dallas." So I put in for a transfer to Dallas where I work counterterrorism, crime aboard aircraft, and violent crime, and joined the Houston or Dallas, tried out and made the Dallas SWAT team. And then after that, somebody had to do this. I went to the Virgin Islands and became the SSRA in the Virgin Islands.
Oh,
And
okay.
then after that, I worked at headquarters in the weapons of mass destruction in the counter-nuclear proliferation arena, and also served on Director Comey's personal protective detail. And then I went back and retired, came back to the U.S.
Oh, I know you're so impressive, honestly. So can I just ask you, like, since you were a kid, was this always something like when did you decide that you were going to be like, what made you decide that, I suppose? Was
Such
there
a good question. No, I never really thought about being an FBI agent. I really thought I would be a doctor. It was kind of what I wanted to do. I also didn't think you could be an FBI agent because, of course, until the 70s, women weren't even allowed in the FBI. So it never really crossed my mind, but I was attacked when I was a freshman in college, and that really changed my whole trajectory. And so at that point, I wanted to put bad guys in prison and never really wanted to be vulnerable like that ever again. So
Oh, okay. I know I always love the like, the story in a sense behind the person. That kind of reminds me a little bit of Kelsey, how she was on a certain trajectory as well. And then through the course of her sister and Abby's case there in the Delphi, how, like I said, one direction led into another direction, and I always believe that everything happens for their reasons. You know, um, and then again, I know that case. Oh, actually, before we get into Sebastian on that one, were you happy with the verdict for Delphi?
Mm.
Or do you know, if you don't
No,
want to?
no, it's fine. No, that's just a case that really troubles me, and I very much support our criminal justice system. I very much believe in jury verdicts. Um, and I think the jury did the best they could with the information they had. I'm troubled by that case because I don't think he was allowed to put up a defense, and I'm not sure the evidence was really there. I know a lot about that case, and there's a lot that troubles me.
Yeah, I I had been following it. So I had followed the Suzanne Morphew case, but it was so I since I was about 26, Jennifer, I vowed that I didn't want to read the newspaper or hear about people hurting or taking someone's lives and stuff like that. So forever and a day for like 20 years, I stayed away from that type of sadness because I take on those feelings of the sadness of when I'm reading it and I start thinking about the families that are impacted and stuff like that. And then I just happened this one day to see this girl on the bridge and the Delta case. So I was just watching. Oh, little feedback coming back. But anyways, so I said don't click on it, about 10 times, and I clicked on it. So that's the first time I became aware of Delphi, and that was back in like 2020. And then the Suzanne Morphew case had come along, and that one bugged me right away. Now, when I was paying attention to the Delphi case, I remember thinking like, "What? Like, this case is so messed up. They got 2 sketches going on here," and so I kind of just paid attention to it a little bit, but followed the Suzanne Morphew case. And then after, I think it was another Mother's Day, because I was always doing tribute videos and stuff like that as well, then I just was like, "Let me go back and look at Delphi." And then that was, like, up until now, basically, still
And
on
what did you think?
of the verdict. This was one of those cases that, well, first of all, it taught me a lot of lessons because on the list of those 90 other people, I decided that I had found the BG that was Kurt, yeah, Garrett Kurt's friend there. So it taught me a learning lesson not to accuse people of any. Well, I thought he was the BG. I didn't think he was maybe possibly the person that took the lives because the this case, the Delphi case, as we know, is just so again a big circus act. So much information, disinformation. Blah. So at first, I thought there was at least 2 or 3 people. Um, then with Richard Allen, I was like, well, who the heck is Richard Allen out of all this? So at the end of the day, I personally feel like with the information that they have, like I guess you guys always say, look at the totality. So I feel like the verdict was correct, but I still feel that it's it was like I would always like to know the full truth of this case, and I don't feel like we got that with this case. I don't know. The white van, him putting himself there. I think there was more him putting himself there and confessing multiple times, and then the white van thing, So I always had to switch gears with the information, because I would have never have thought at first that Kagan Klein had nothing to do with the case whatsoever. Not that I thought that he was part of Abby and Libby's deaths, but just the oddness that he's messaging Libby that morning. to, not that he was going to meet up with her that day. He never specifically said that. He just said he was supposed to meet up with her. So all I know is that I'm fine. If it goes to appeal and the evidence of the whole odonistic or that third party thing, comes to fruition, I just believe, like I said, I would like to think that the jury, really, really had the information, that they did the best, like you said, that they could with it. But I also think that I don't know. I that case was very wearing on me, and I was just I was glad that it finally made it to the trial, like to the court. But I am conflicted on if the defense should have been able to. I don't know. Like, can I just ask you something on this one?
Sure.
Are you a fan of Judge Gull or not?
I have not agreed with her rulings.
I I did feel that she was pretty biased towards prosecution over the defense. It just came across a lot, especially after the Supreme Court decision. I don't know why, but it just always came across to me like, regardless of what, say, people thought about the verdict, but that she always seemed to give the prosecution everything they seemed to wanted, but it seemed like the defense side, I don't know, I just felt like when somebody shows favoritism, to me, and I just felt like the defense, every time that they tried to do something, they did get shut down, you know? So I was a fan of hers at first, and then not so much as it was progressing, you know? At the end of the day, all I ever wanted, and I do want with any case, is just the darkness to come to light and the truth to come out, and justice to be served for the victims, for the persons that are responsible, you know. So, obviously Richard Allen was convicted for it. So, you know, we'll see what happens, I guess, as it plays out more so. But at the end of the day, my heart just always will go out to the families and the victims, um, of these. But yeah, it's a very, it's a very hard case on the heart, the Delphi case for sure. And that's the same way I feel like with Sebastian Rogers here, is that um, I can't really make sense of it. So this was going to be a question for you.
Mhm.
In my head, I have certain, like there's only so many scenarios that could possibly have happened with Sebastian Rogers. In for you, Jennifer, what would your scenarios be? Like, from as to why Sebastian went missing. What I kind of think that there's three or four that top my head, in a sense. What would you say are the top scenarios for Sebastian?
I think Sebastian was lured out, and I think he was taken at 3:10 in the morning, and someone has him. I feel very confident that that is what's happened. I don't know whether he lives today or doesn't live. And I don't know whether, I don't believe it was a stranger in any way, shape, or form. It was somebody that knew Sebastian, that is responsible for him missing. That could be his family. Uh, it could be Katie and Chris. It could be somebody else that he met in some way. I know everybody says he didn't have the internet, and I believe that at his home. But kids, Sebastian Rogers was very high functioning. And
Right.
to think that when he was at school or maybe using somebody else's device, a buddy, a friend's, that he couldn't have communication on the internet with others, I think is not, it's a scenario that has to be considered. But no matter who he went with or who took him, I believe knew him.
I believe so too. If I was, a betting person on that one. Like from the get go of this case, to me, it's been strange to say the least. And I think a lot of it has to do, to be honest with you, and I'm just a straight up person here, straight shooter. Um, I believe so. The first thing I thought was very odd is the fact that we kept being told that he went out the front door and locked it, let alone without shoes, without anything and stuff like that. That just seemed, as a mother, as just, a common sense, level headed thinking, person in a sense, that scenario of him just leaving the front door and locking it, you would think perhaps the dogs would be barking. He didn't take his money that they found in his closet in this little ATM thing a week later. We were told of just a flashlight that Katie couldn't find, so she associated that with that it was with Sebastian. But not taking anything, a knapsack, nothing, no shoes. I mean, the shoe thing is just odd in itself. But all of that stuff just didn't add up to someone that just, well, let me just walk out the door without any shoes and lock it on the way out as I'm going to run away. That part. But that's what they kept saying. Um, but then they went on a channel called The Duchess, and no disrespect to the Duchess whatsoever. I thought that was absurd. That when I first saw that, 5K viewers, like 5K subs, and your first thought is to go onto a YouTube channel instead of like the news. Like, let me ask you this. If this was your child and this happened to you, right? I'm pretty sure you're like that mama bear that would be shouting from the rooftops. You would be plastering yourself, getting, like any what you would think any normal person would be doing, not kind of hiding in the back set in a sense. Um, but you would be pretty. So what would you do? Like if this was happened to your child, what do you think your actions would kind of be? Would you go on a YouTube channel right away?
Well, the perfect example of, I think, what a parent does when they correctly address the media and take on a missing child were really what the Petitos and the Schmidts did when Gabby Petito went missing. Recall, she went missing. They didn't know where she was, and they filed a missing persons report, and they went on the national media, mainstream media circuit to try to get Gabby's face and name out there. And if ever I have seen a family torn up and really touch and reach household after household, they did that because it was real. You could feel the pain and suffering. Gabby's mom, Gabby's father, stepmom, stepfather. I mean, they worked in unison together to try to figure out what had happened to Gabby. That is, I would believe, how I would handle a situation like this.
Yeah.
Exactly, pretty much like they did.
So, and I followed that case as well. And, you know, and that's the thing, right? Is that that's what's kind of been hard for me a little bit because with this case, so Christopher Proudfoot got upset with Seth because of the a GoFundMe. And there was some sort of agreement. So I understand if you have an agreement, but Seth had said to his sister, had said, well, hey, you know what, you're going to need this. But apparently they were told like if they went, um, did a GoFundMe that it would look bad, I think by the LE there or whatever. Somebody said that to them. Um, so I get that. But what I didn't get is I felt like here is a step parent of the child. Why are you making it about money, first of all? Like, regardless of anything, this is about a child, it's Katie being the mom, him being the stepdad, and Seth. And to me, it's kind of like, why do you keep making this about yourself? Like, this is about Sebastian Rogers, you know. So, like Gabby Petito's case, they came together. And it, so that part for me, yes, we should be seeing cohesiveness in this case, working together. But yet I always feel like Christopher Proudfoot, and I don't want to take away from Katie over there too, but I always just feel like it's almost like every time he gets offended, it's like, well, Seth did this, so now I'm not working with him or this or that. And yet to me personally, and tell me how you feel, but Seth to me is doing exactly what I would be doing in so many ways. He was always trying to be as transparent as he could from the start. He boots on the ground, searching. Absolutely, you could feel the devastation when he speaks. Even when he speaks now, he's has to hold back from tears, or else or he does tear up because you can just feel the emotions. And what I conceive or whatever as like when someone's being genuine and honest to their feelings. So, and I'm not feeling that from the Proudfoot side. Versus, how do you feel about that with, say, Seth Rogers, first of all?
Well, great points you make. When you look at Seth, he did all those things you said. Boots on the ground. He came off, very torn up, very upset about his son, and he still his entire really day in and day out life, other than dealing with medical issue or work situation, it's all about Sebastian. And I don't think that that can be denied. And so from that standpoint, I think you hit the nail on the head. He's very genuine and has tried to do everything he can. Remember, he hired private investigators early on in the case.
Yeah.
He certainly was more on the mainstream media channel or program rather than the social media. I think he was certainly a fish out of water, as most parents would be. How do I get my son's name out there, but keep the focus on him and not on me? And that's difficult for any parent. When you look at the Proudfits, and I'll address Chris. Chris didn't like Sebastian. That's my opinion.
Mine too.
It's an opinion. We know too much about how he treated him. Uh, we just know too much. And I don't think he liked him. And he didn't want him around his daughter. He said that in a interview, so I'm not speaking out of turn. He
I
himself,
know.
actually, he was asked, do you want him around your daughter? Words to that effect. And he said, words to this effect, no, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to go into why. And he was trying and has been trying to get custody, remember, at least partial custody or custody of his daughter.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of things that play into it. But some parents cannot like their stepchild, but it
Mhm.
doesn't mean they would kill their stepchild. But it's something authorities should certainly look at in terms of motive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Um, so my like as I've been following this case, my personal so to me, Christopher Prophet, and I'm going to be nice when I say it this way. He has a very unlikable factor about himself. For anyone that disagrees, and again, for anyone in chat, I just want to say because there is 312 people in here, um, you guys can have your opinions all you want. It doesn't so whether you disagree or agree, that's perfectly fine. Just ask that you always be respectful to either people on panel or to the people that are in chat. You can have your opinion and you can agree to disagree, just not to be disrespectful. Uh, so, with that being said, yeah. So Christopher Proudfoot to me has a very, actually, I'm going to go a little further on this one. Very um, narcissistic, self-absorbing type of personality every time for me personally. It's not like I go out of my way, but Jennifer, I've always been very in tune with people's emotions or the aura around somebody. I can tell a snake a mile away. I can tell dishonesty. I very much am a people reader. I always have been since I was a child. So if I don't like someone right away, it's because there's something that because you're not genuine, you're not truthful, You're a liar. And the thing with Christopher Proudfoot is he has proven over and over again that he tells a lot of mistruth or indeed lies. And then he acts like he's the smartest person in the room. He's very narcissistic, but he has a very, to me, unlikable personality. And then you have Katie, for me personally. I'm sorry, but as a mother, as a parent, I could not ever grasp someone hiding their and then letting their husband always speak for them most of the time, as if he's in control and she's like this meek personality, someone that's, very experienced in martial arts and to me has a lot more vocal voice. So I found it very strange between the Hands interview, between going on a YouTube channel. So this stuff just doesn't speak normalcy to me. And that's my issue is that as a mother, this is your child. It is not Christopher Proudfoot's child. This is your child, Katie. People want to hear from you. They want to hear directly from you. So when she hides, in a sense, or whatever you want to deem it as, stays in the background and lets Christopher always do the speaking, and he does not do a good job at that because Christopher Proudfoot makes most lives about himself. You barely really hear like, about Sebastian so much. They're talking about Sebastian, but you don't really hear this outcry for, what, we're just begging you for your help. Please, anything you can do, and mostly you're hearing about defending now of, things that he said or this or people, twisting and he has to justify that no, my truck was da 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 da. And so for me, from the Katie, who was the last person that seen Sebastian that we know of, right, is that you're his mother. You're his mother. Get your butt in front of the camera, and we want to hear from you because there's that disconnect there that people have felt with Katie. And we want to be connected. We want to feel those emotions we feel like we do when Seth speaks. The truth, where someone is genuine. That's where my big beef is, which is not natural to me. What do you think?
No, you made great points again, Sunny. But I will say, from my experience, each parent, each person who experiences something like this, any crime really, has varied actions and emotions. I'll give you an example. Caleb Harris, who
Mm,
on my channel, we followed him very closely, that family. I've
yeah.
gotten to be close with them. And, but the mom, Caleb's mom, uh, who's a very religious woman. She is a person that is a true, what I would call a fatalist, that God has a plan and that it's really not proper to object to the plan. Just such a
Right.
strong faith, stronger than most people I have ever communicated with, just very, very strong. And so she wasn't necessarily out in front on the camera. It was always Mr. Harris that represented the family as
Mhm.
opposed to her because she was home praying. So I will say, not to defend Katie,
Right.
but to just say, generally speaking, there are a lot of different reactions to this. I think for me, um, to juxtapose again, as you've done, how Seth is, how the Schmidts, how the Petitos are or were regarding their missing child, to how the Proudfoots act. And it's been quite different. But even though they really, you don't feel that sense of loss, you don't feel that they feel that emptiness, that sorrow, that um, horrific loss. They say, and I've never lost a child, but they say when you lose a child and knowing people that have, that you just have this hole and you sort of just kind of go through the motions of life after that. And you really never have complete happiness or joy ever again.
Right.
I don't get that. I mean, certainly not from Chris at all. And it's difficult to read Katie because she's so guarded. But I agree with you that the conversations always seem to be more of a defensive nature instead of pleading for people to help find their son.
Yeah. You know, so and this is the thing is that, we all judge, and when we follow cases, and when something seems off or odd, or that you're not feeling that connection, because we all know, Jennifer, right? For with so many cases, people boldly lie in your face, right? Christopher Watts, right? Barry Morphew, that they'll sit there and they make this plea, that comes off unbelievable, stuff like that. But you never know, because we know that the story is really the gist of this story of what we do somewhat know. Most of it is what Katie Proudfoot is saying. And that's really the information in a sense, whether it's, the truth or not. Like, it's kind of like most of Sebastian's time frame, besides, of course, videos. We all know that, okay? Stuff like that. But most of it's based around just what Katie Proudfoot has said, with camera footage, obviously, that the LE has. And we all know, and this is sometimes I digress on this with people, we all know that LE and stuff like that have way more information. We don't know what they have, but they sure have a heck of a lot more than we do, and stuff like that. And I want to say this because Nick the Hat and Dog, watch Dog when they have hit him and Beth, Dog the Bounty Hunter. Loved it when he brought his name and came to this case. And same with, well, there's, other people. I know that there's SF Investigates following it, and a lot of people, trying to do boots on the ground and everything like that, and gathering information, because honestly, there's cases like, especially if people are in the vicinity or area and stuff like that. Um, Anyways, it's really nice to see that these people are keeping Sebastian's, whether you would like them or not, doesn't matter, that they're keeping a big focus on the case. And I think it was awesome when Dog, when Nick, I guess, spoke to Dog there and, told him about Sebastian's case, and that his name is with this case now. Um, he's a straight shooter, Dog. Actually, that's what I love probably about you too, Jennifer, is I'm not a bullshitter. I don't like fake. I can't do fake. I just like people that are just honest and genuine to the core. They're transparent. And that's what I look for when I'm kind of like listening to people talk and how they're going about their actions and stuff like that. And for me personally, uh, Katie's actions, regardless of Christopher Proudfoot, her actions to me aren't matching up with that of someone that really is begging to have their child come home and stuff like that. I just am not feeling it. And that's where the disconnection comes, because we're allowed to judge her. We're allowed to judge anyone we want. That's our right. We can have our opinions to do so. But I try to match up what is being said. And the sad truth is, because Christopher Proudfoot lies quite often, or whatever he wants to deem them as, little white lies or whatever. I mean, he lied about the polygraph test, and then he tried to make people seem like they were stupid by saying, well, I didn't say who. No, you did. And you literally have proof by your own words that you said that you had taken a polygraph test. Then he, put his tail between his legs on Nancy Grace and said that no, he didn't, but that's not the first of many that have gone on with this case. So to sit there and have to then believe, so Christopher Proudfoot being the most vocal person of this case for Sebastian, in from the Proudfoot side, and then to know that there's all these like different things being said here, added things here throughout the story. Um, it's hard to trust even what Katie's saying whatsoever, because I don't. They took the pictures off of the vehicle. Remember when Katie and Chris, they went up back up to, was it Memphis, to Yogi Bear Park or whatever it was, they shut down their Facebooks. Well, meaning they closed them. They took off, and this is where Seth was on a live here months back. They took off, the Bauer Sox took off the pictures of Sebastian on their vehicles. And all I can think about is, this is a child that's missing. Why would you care more about yourself and worry about yourself, in a sense, when it's about Sebastian? Why would you take a picture? Why? Because you didn't want people to know that you were there at Yogi National Park. And, because I know people can be trolls and, follow and do that stuff. But it just keeps seeming like those aren't actions to me of someone that's screaming like, you're not attending vigils. We're seeing Seth do the searches, and then they're in the background going, oh, well, we're doing all this stuff behind the scenes. And I don't know. I just call a lot of BS on that stuff, because, taking the pictures off the vehicles and it just, I'm sorry, Katie, Jennifer, but the actions and for the Proudfoots are not matching what I deem as somebody that's really going, oh my God, my son, he's missing. Seth's actions are matching that for me, not
Yeah.
Proudfoots.
I mean, Sunny, you say it very well. Either they just have a terrible way of expressing emotion, or they don't have that emotion, right? It's one of the two. And I think it's very hard for us to believe that if you love your son, your only son,
Your only son.
and if he is the priority in your life, and you expect to see that devastation come across, you expect to see nothing more important than having his picture on your RV and being at home in case he returns home, and being in mainstream media as best you can to get the public's attention so you have more people looking.
Yeah.
And the focus is not those three things I've just said. The
Yeah.
focus, seemingly from very early on, has really been directing a narrative. But
Yeah.
having said that, we do know that I think law enforcement, by not doing the luminol test, by not, addressing any type of fingerprints. And I know what you could be thinking is that, well, of course we expect their fingerprints to be there, but where are they? Are they clutching a bedpost? Are they holding onto a door frame?
Right.
Where, a picture can be told sometimes with different sorts of evidence. And but this tells me that law enforcement truly believed Chris and Katie were not involved in this early on, because they did
Right.
not treat that as a crime scene. I also believe, from the fact that the wanted poster and all the information, all the messaging from law enforcement has said the 26th, not the 25th. And when I looked back at the initial alert, which was an endangered child alert at about 11 something the morning after, that said that he was last seen in the area of Stafford Court. And that to me is really bothersome, because does
Right.
that mean there is a sighting outside of where we saw him in the
Right.
restaurant? And then, of course, it gets upped the next day after that to an Amber Alert, which tells you
Right.
criminal abduction.
Right.
So, it's been very interesting to see Ellie's response, and we really have no idea where Ellie's head is right now, because they haven't come out and really said anything significant other than excluding Green Hitty since April 2nd. People
Yeah.
just rewinding that tape
Yeah.
as if that's what they're saying right now, and that's not accurate.
Yeah. The green hoodie.
No, I agree with the green hoodie.
Yeah.
No, I agree with the green hoodie, meaning I think that they found who it was. I think they interviewed them. I think they lived somewhere around there. I think they just came in and used the bathroom, and they're, that's what
Yeah.
I happened. I don't think it had anything to do with his disappearance. I still find it odd that law enforcement didn't closely examine those tapes and just look into the possibilities
Right.
until now.
Right. Right.
Seem
Sorry,
late
that.
to the party on.
And so, and hey, and just quickly, hey Alexa. Alexa's our criminal profiler. She usually joins us. She was a criminal profiler for 16 years. So she's been flying around the country here, delivering some presents, I guess, for good causes. And Ben, nice to see you here. Hey, mods, thank you so much. Thank you to the regular crew and anyone that's watching that's newer to the channel as well. Um, so I want to say this because there's so many things that are going through my brain right now, Jennifer. But first, I want to say thank you for doing that content on the live the other day, where you were doing it from how the LETBI, FBI are looking at it. That always to me is I love to hear stuff like that because that's really in my head what I want to know. Like, how are they seeing the case in a sense from, well, just I guess from the information that we have best. Like I said, we obviously don't know the ins and outs, and obviously all these people that claim that they got special information and stuff like that. That one always makes me giggle. But different than say Nick or who's ever doing boots on the ground, and they're literally talking perhaps to neighbors or whatever about camera footage or what they saw that day, stuff like that. Besides those people that can have more information, because obviously, as you know, some people have talked to neighbors, across the street saying that the lights turned off at 9:08 and 11:05. And so I want to thank you for that because I thought that was awesome. To be honest with you, I was listening to it at nighttime when I was lying down. Fell asleep a couple times, not because of your live,
It
just
happens to my husband too. He says I put him to sleep all the time when I talk.
I listen to true crime in a sense. So what happens is this: I start off listening, but I've been really tired and lacking sleep. But anyway, so um, when I my fastest way to fall asleep is to start thinking, just like with Delphi, with that case, or with Sebastian's, is well, basically, first of all, I start asking, the higher powers to tell me where Sebastian is. And then I start thinking about the scenarios in my head. Next thing you know, I'm out like a light and wake up the next day going, shoot, nobody told me anything about Sebastian Rogers on this one. And because it drives me crazy. Now, I know that you only got limited time here, but I do have things I need to play. But I want to go back to the scenarios for a second. So it was always kind of like, what could possibly have happened? Did Sebastian decide, hey, YOLO, I'm going to go take off not wear any shoes, take nothing with me and go take my own life? Unlikely scenario. Did
That's off the table for me personally.
Yes, absolutely. Did Sebastian leave run away himself? Based on all the stuff, no shoes, no, it doesn't make sense whatsoever. So third party. So this is where, to me, that's probably my most strongest. Whoops. Somebody, 1 second. Thank you, Curious. What's it? Thank you. Yes, she is. I mean, I personally love Jennifer Coffindaffer. I like her down to earth. And, honestly, Jennifer, I'll say it this way. For me personally, because you don't know me like I know you in the sense that I see you on News Nation, Court TV, all the different things and stuff like that. For me, you're one of those people that if I don't know you long, I feel like I've known you forever type of person. And you're very, to me, at least, like, you're connectable. Like, people can relate to me. I can relate to you when you talk. You just, it's not like you're pussyfooting around. You're just kind of like, you know what? Here it is, da 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 da. And I just feel like genuineness coming from when you speak. And so that's why I kind of felt like that connection to you. is just because, like I said, I like the fact that you're level-headed thinking. You always give me like, if I'm thinking something, usually you're saying it as well. And so when somebody to me has what I deem as level-headed thinking, I'm just like, yep, exactly what I was thinking. Yep, exactly, Jennifer, or other people too, but on that. So thank you so much for that donation there. And yes, Jennifer Coffindaffer is phenomenal, and I do love her, and I'm so glad she is joining this live today, because I don't usually go out of my way to ask people much or get people on the live um, type of thing. But I thought, I was listening to Sebastian Rogers, your live, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to reach out to Jennifer and just ask her because this case means a lot to myself. I know it means a lot to you too, with this. But going back to the scenario, sorry. So in my head, Jennifer, I was thinking, well, was there a teacher that Sebastian spoke to that thought that they were going to be the savior of Sebastian? And, like, did he confide in a teacher and somehow this teacher, because there are people out there that do this stuff, right? They think that they're doing the better for the good and stuff like that, so that has crossed my mind right from the get-go about, okay, so just trying to look at the different scenarios. So I feel like I want to keep the hope because we haven't been shown anything different that Sebastian is still alive. Although, we know typically kind of what happens in cases like this, and typically, usually, there's not a great outcome. But in this particular case, I want to keep with Seth and the thoughts that somebody does have Sebastian, somebody that knows him. Now, whether this was through the Proudfoots happening or whether this was through maybe something Sebastian's talked to and he wanted to get out of the home and stuff like that. My hope is that he is still alive, and that he will come back to, I'll say, okay, I'll just say the family members one day, preferably Seth and, Seth's mother, she was in chat a few times and she's pretty outspoken herself.
Mhm.
Um, Jennifer, so yeah, so if you were to say third party, how would you kind of deem that as in your head? What are you picturing kind of happen there?
Well, I think it would be somebody again that Sebastian would have trusted, whether that was a teacher, whether that was somebody he met online, whether that was somebody he had some sort of connection with from school. We know he has very limited social circles. So that's good for law enforcement normally, because when you're looking at possible individuals to investigate, you start small on the inner circle and then you work your way out to somebody that's a complete stranger, somebody that just went in
Right.
there, snatched him or something like that. And when you look at this case, it just, I am a huge believer in Occam's razor. That's how I investigated cases, and from my experience, I believe you have to look at the most reasonable, commonsensical scenario. When you start getting crazy, in other words, that
Mhm.
somebody just happened to go into the house and they took him, and then they disappeared on a flying machine, right?
Yeah.
The more crazy you get with conspiratorial notions, the more
Yeah.
base and improbable those are.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
but do so definitely think it would have been somebody that he trusted. Um, and then when you look at Occam's razor, you start close to home. And what I
Right.
find interesting is as of April 2nd, when asked, do you believe it's family? Have you cleared the family? Law enforcement refuses to answer that question. They say, listen, we don't, there's no foul play. Well, then why do you have a Amber Alert out, and why is
Yeah.
the FBI giving 50 grand? They
Right.
don't do that in missing cases. They do that in cases where they believe there's criminal activity. He did not just disappear. Somebody is committed a criminal activity, in my opinion, for him to be gone this long.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
find him within that 5-mile radius,
Yeah.
straight away, and for him not to be seen on any cameras. when you add all of that up, it means that he
So strange.
circuitously was ushered out of that house in that neighborhood.
Yeah. Do you yourself think that there's any involvement from the Proudfoot side, just in your opinion?
I don't know. I feel like I don't have all of the evidence for me to say that. I did a red flags series,
I've seen that, yeah.
if you watch that, um, where I specifically point out red flags that I've seen with
Mhm.
the Proudfoots. And but is it red flags of him being abused, or is it red flags
Right.
of them being involved in the abduction? I'm calling it the abduction. I just don't believe he left on his own and at some point didn't get help, because he hasn't been found in any of the ponds, any of the waterways, anywhere within that inner area. Um, it's
You know what?
terrible.
No, I was gonna say, because a few thoughts went through my head as well, like, and I seen Seth, and then when he did that thing with At Night video with and Tony and whatever, and when he's talking about um oh, Jennifer, my head just went blank on me. Oh my goodness. Jennifer, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that to your point about dog being involved in all of this, that
Oh,
I agree with you on all of that, that it doesn't matter who it is, if people like them or don't like them. If they're getting Sebastian Rogers' face and name, that's good. And to dog is at a whole different level. I mean,
yes.
he has such exposure. Yes, he's older. Yes, his prime was back in the day. He still has a huge following, and
That's important.
it's so important, and he cares. For those of you who don't know, for instance, on Christmas, I mean, he even reached out and said, "Hey, Jen, I just wanted to say Merry Christmas." That, and it's
That's so nice.
just me he treats like that. He truly, truly, for whether you like him or don't like him, I can tell
Mm,
you he wants to find Sebastian. Is he boots on the ground? No, but he has a group, and At
mhm.
Night has the money and the resources that they're looking. And I love that they're looking, because they're just looking into any lead that might lead to Sebastian. And thank goodness somebody is out there
Yeah.
at the outer reaches, you know,
Yeah.
looking. They're running down the more obscure leads, and I'm so grateful that.
Absolutely. Like I said, I mean, I'm a fan of Dog the Bounty Hunter anyway, like I said, with him and Beth, and, prayers to Beth on that one. And I know he remarried to somebody that I probably think it's his other second perfect person there going on. Always reminded me of Beth too. Just meaning, I followed that whole bit and stuff like that. So, anyways, I love Dog. I'm glad he's on it. Of course, the awareness that he can bring, let alone to people that don't know about the case, only adds to it. Anytime you can add to awareness to a case, you can't knock that. And for people that try to, then it sucks to be you as a person if you have problems and issues with bringing awareness to a case and stuff like that, for sure. Um, wh- um, I got so much things going through my head, and that's why I drew a blank there a minute ago. But I wanted to talk to you about a couple things here. But okay, actually, let me play something quickly, Jennifer, if I might. Let's see here, right here. Okay, so as you guys know, if you guys know Sweetie Pie Low from the Suzanne Morphy case, and same with Reverend Donna Serafina, I this is something, and then I'll get into why this seems strange to me with this information. So let me just quickly play it. So we got Sweetie Pie Low, Donna Serafina. So Donna Serafina had done a reading with Seth, and so she's relaying a part of information to do with, of course, Katie and Christopher Proudfoot's marriage. Okay, so let me just quickly play that.
For like what Seth told me was that the stepfather, is that Chris, the stepfather?
Yes.
That Chris had told him a couple months ago that their marriage was on the rocks, that
Okay.
he no longer wanted to deal with the problems of Sebastian and the problems of his ex-wife and his own problems. Like he was done, and that their marriage might be ending. So Seth has come out publicly and said that Sebastian was due to come live with him. But if you're talking about pressure in the marriage that could contribute to somebody losing their temper, and then, like you said, she, according to Seth, she's trained martial arts.
Yeah.
And
That's what I heard, too.
extensively, so
Mhm.
she has the ability to cause damage. According to Seth, she's very quick tempered and has mood swings. Now, I don't know if still alcohol or later, but this marriage has only been going on a couple of years, and if I'm hearing Seth correctly, this guy from Tennessee, she met him, they got married, and he wanted to bring her back.
Okay, I'll stop it there because the main point of what I wanted you to hear is there. So Jennifer, we all know that. Okay, so it was said quite a while back, and someone can say, Stone, Seth told me, okay, girl. So yes, always information, if it's not coming out of the horse's mouth itself, you take it always with a grain of salt. But in this case, I knew that Seth had, and I look, you know what I mean? You kind of put certain things that are being said on certain levels, and if you're, some people, like, they think from like the planet Mars and stuff like that, and start like the conspiracy stuff, and alien ship came down and blah 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 blah, but I kind of like prioritize Ellie, Proudfoot's, but this was something that I always remembered was about the relationship, as that the marriage was on its crumbling. And again, it just goes within saying of how you feel, how I feel about Christopher Proudfoot not really liking his stepson too much. And I don't think Sebastian liked Christopher Proudfoot, is my own personal thoughts on this one. So here in my head, I got, I'm thinking about Sebastian's missing, the relationship's crumbling. Christopher Proudfoot doesn't want to have to deal with Katie Proudfoot's issues, Sebastian Rogers' issues. He's got his own issues going on, and basically the, of course, marriages, whatever. And so this is where, Jennifer, we know that there's a lot of crazy cases where people get rid of their kids because the man becomes more important than the actual child and stuff like that. But so with this being said, what has always bugged me with Katie's timeline of the day is, fun fact, I made Sebastian breakfast, spaghetti pancakes. Fun fact, as if it was like some special heat that she had done that particular morning of the disappearance, which reminds me, if you look at Seth's t-shirt that he wears, it says missing since February 25th. So anyway, so she does this fun fact thing. So we know that, apparently, Sebastian's braggadocious to one of the cousins or whatever, and about how his mom has made pancakes, laughing, that a niece had called, whatever, to be picked up. So fun fact about the spaghetti breakfast. Then we go into BJ's, and they have this colossal popcorn. They buy snacks, come back home. Apparently the niece, goes off with her mother at some, probably maybe the BJ's location or something like that. Katie Proudfoot, like I said, comes home with Sebastian, says she buys snacks, then they go whoop back out again, then they go bowling, and then they go to Texas Roadhouse. And so it's things like that that truly bug me, because why all of a sudden on the day that Sebastian basically goes missing, fun fact, I made him spaghetti pancakes, fun fact, I took him here, I took him there. Like, it was like having this day. And even Seth, I noticed, made a comment about that, saying, yeah, he doesn't usually do that much. Like, I find that odd. Do you?
It was a full day. And I know what you're getting at, kind of like a Last Supper day. I'll just call it like that. In other words, the perfect day for what Sebastian would have wanted, right? She says the big some popcorn and the pancakes. I agree with you. And you saw how he ate. He clearly loved the meals, at least that meal at Texas Roadhouse that night, bowling, all of that. It is a full day. I can't think Usually you do one of those. Oh, we're going to go to the Roadhouse for dinner, or we're going to go bowling, or we're going to go to BJ's with the niece or whatever. It's a full day. So you're on point. I think that that's unusual, but I think we have to counter that with, had she ever done that before?
Well, that's what Seth said, though. Jennifer, was that Seth said that that's not a normal, that he was basically, Seth was talking about how he knows where Sebastian is. He knows when he's at this time he's getting on his school bus. On this, he's at the weekend. But he had said that that is not a normal day for Sebastian. Like, that's not normalcy. When I listened to that live that he did, like I said, I think at night there with the lab and Tony, he said that that wasn't normal. And so, and that's what, because I, just like you, wondered the same thing. Is this normal? Because if this is a normal thing, then, you don't put so much weight into it. But if it's not normal, and, you think, okay, their relationship's dissolving, da 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 da, could Katie Proudfoot, have anything, because she was the last person, her actions have been really just what I don't deem as what a mother would typically be doing when their son goes missing. And I'm thinking, okay, so, whatever happened, Sebastian, like, did she hand him off to somebody? Like, here's your last fun-filled day, and, somebody else has you somewhere. I just get really torn with that myself.
Sonny,
But
I think you're right. And look, I think you couldn't knock over anybody with a feather if they said, if
Yeah.
it comes out that the Proudfoots are involved, Sonny, there is going to be no one that is shocked and surprised.
Right.
I don't think, I'm just saying, if that scenario would play out. If the scenario plays out that it is a third party, somebody from school, somebody
Right.
online, something like that, I don't think anybody would be completely shocked.
Right.
I think that there would be more surprise. So, the bottom line is, as you pointed out so well, certainly the Proudfoots have painted a glim picture that all of us could see could be a probable scenario based on, again, right, all the other times we've seen parents hurt their children, right? We're falling lockstep with some of those
Yeah.
instances. So great point.
Jennifer, do you have 15 more minutes to give me? Because I see it's 3:03. Do you have 15 minutes more?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Because I was just like going, oh, this I need to da 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 da. Because one of the things that is one of the things I was going to say before, when my head went and like exploded for a second there, was I was going to talk about the fact of how, and like Seth had mentioned, and this always struck me as well, was the fact that obviously they were disbelieving that Sebastian was a runaway. Police officers, people are going through the house, no one's thinking, kind of like Delphi, no one's thinking like, oh, like he's been taken or stuff like that. Really, they're thinking that maybe he took off, like the parent is saying, that he went out the front door, that they deemed that and stuff like that. So by now you have a totally contaminated crime scene that they didn't know would be a crime scene per se, because they just deemed it as autistic child ran away. And so that's something that really bothered Steph. I noticed that he was saying as well, because so to me, that wouldn't be abnormal though. Like that, the police are in the house, people are coming and going, the Bauer socks are in the house. And by then now any evidence that they do have most of it would be touched probably by other people. What were your thoughts on that? Because obviously you're not thinking the worst case scenario right away. You're just kind of thinking like, okay, this child's going to be found probably like within the same day.
Yeah, the statistics are astronomical that within 24 hours, at the outside, 48 hours, a child like this is found. It's astronomical that it's that way. And with autistic children, sadly, it's astronomical that they are found in a body of water.
Yes.
So when you look at all of that, police officers, people who deal with missing people, people who have investigated violent crime, we all know this. And so you're sort of working against what you know to think anything otherwise. In other words, the number of times that it ends up being nefarious.
Yeah.
They were taken by a stranger is super low, and that they were taken or that their family was involved is, of course, much higher if it's
That on the
determined
Nancy.
there is.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So my point about this is, did law enforcement do a bad job when they went in, and did they not protect a possible crime scene? It seems so crystal clear to me now. They truly believe that the Proudfoots weren't involved, because why wouldn't you do luminol?
Right.
If you thought they were involved. So they clearly don't think he did. And I think that is based on this second sighting on the 26th, that I just have to believe law enforcement here.
Right.
They denoted it on the endangered alert, and
Right.
they've kept their posters that way. The FBI has said that. So it makes me think that we don't know, can't see, that there was some sort of sighting on the 26th.
Okay, exactly. Now, so in saying that part, I'm trying to decide which I'm going to play first. Actually, let me play this first. So remind me, I want to come back to that, because I want to play that little 1 minute and 47-second video with Nick, of course. What was his name? Nick Perez. And when he's talking to Craddock there. But anyways, I want to know the answer to this one, but let me play it for you first. And you guys, with this one, so I'm going to play 2 clips. One's from Deception Detective, which I love his stuff, by the way. I love the way he thinks. Again, very level-headed, giving good insight, I feel. I know that the Lore Lodge has also put out videos. That's the stuff I like. I'm not into going to watch Christopher Proudfoot talking with 9 other YouTubers on a channel, blah, 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 blah type of thing. But I love listening to the intake of others like yourself, Jennifer, on your thoughts, and a lot of the stuff that I'm thinking myself, right? Like I said, I'm not into conspiracies, because usually the truth is close to home. And it's not this, well, this had to happen, and this had to happen, and that had to happen in order for this to happen. It's usually not the way it goes. Besides the Lori Vallow case, that was just a messed up case. I mean, that one was okay. But anyway, so the first part will be Deception Detective on this one. Now, the gist of the premise to this video, Christopher Proudfoot, okay, in one of his many lies. But anyways, he basically says that he cannot tell us why he cannot say the date of when he left. Okay.
Yes, I remember this. It's a
Okay.
good.
Yeah. So, but then I want you to listen to what what Katie Proudfoot says when I play. So back to back, I'm going to play Deception Detective, and then I'm going to play Smiley Stories World. Okay. And then you're going to listen to what Smiley's asking and to what Katie's answer is. And I especially want you to listen to what Katie says in this. And we'll come back to it, Jennifer, because I think that this is, and all the information out there, this to me is one of the most ridiculous things I have heard, for that he couldn't say this, but he talks all day long about things that you would think that someone wouldn't talk about, but besides the date when he left. But anyways, I'll play this.
Grace showed that you were last in the house at the beginning of February, but that you couldn't say why, or I can't remember the
No, I
exact
said I
verbiage.
couldn't tell you the exact date, and I'm
Oh, okay.
still not going to
Okay.
tell you the exact date.
If I guessed it, would you tell me?
Once again, ma'am, I'm sorry, but that is one thing that law enforcement asked not to be released.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I said that in an interview a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement does not want that information out there. I am not releasing it. It's just know the last time I saw Sebastian was early February, until I came home February 26th. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know you probably have been asked this on several channels. Y'all have been on several channels. Is there a reason that Chris Hasn't seen him since. I know it had to do with the work, but like, why did he say he hadn't seen Sebastian since the 1st of February?
Because that's the truth. He hadn't seen him since the beginning of February.
I mean, is there a reason for that?
He's working 3.5 hours away. He don't come home after work.
So was he, I mean, and I'm not, I mean, I'm just wondering, like, was he gone for like 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks or something like that?
He'd been gone since the beginning of February was the last time he was actually home. Christopher was actually home. And yes, he did see Sebastian when he come home.
Okay. So a couple things there. So Christopher forgets what he says and what he doesn't say. So what happened here was Christopher was actually on the live. In this particular day, he was pissed off with something Smiley said, got her to do a live. He said that he was getting a phone call from his daughter. So he happened to drop off of the live for a few minutes. Meanwhile, Katie's basically telling you, and Smiley's world says, why did Christopher say that February 1st? You know, this so secret information that he hasn't said about before. Why February 1st, of course, was the last time that basically he had was when he was home, but then he had left. But then Katie's answer when she says, well, he's been gone 2.5, 3 weeks or whatever. And she said, yeah. And then here, let me play that part again, actually, because that one was really important. Let me just play it from right here when you listen to what Katie said.
3 weeks or 2.5 weeks or something like that?
He'd been gone since the beginning of February was the last time he was actually home. Christopher was actually home. And yes, he did see Sebastian when he come home.
So that's the part that throws me off. Yes, he did see Sebastian when he came home. But wait a second. But you're saying that he left February 1st. Like that's when he was physically home. And then after that, you're saying, but yes, he did see Sebastian when he came home, but he was already at home. So that doesn't make sense to me. So it makes me wonder if it's one of those little Freudian slip things, you know, because I think that there is, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, but isn't like at night and not trying to show that on the 23rd or something like that, that this black truck is in on Enoch Way and stuff like that. But anyways, so how could he possibly have seen Sebastian when he had come home if he was already at home but had left? So tell me, Jennifer, why is Christopher Proudfoot, according to FBI, that whatever, or LEU, whoever it is, not allowed to talk about when he left to go to Memphis?
Well, two things here. She says, and it just jumps off the page when she says it, right? You're like listening along. This is probably the third time I've heard this because I listened. This is one of the ones I really focused on because it was so early on. When she says that, but when he'd come home, she would see him. So is she talking generally, like in the past, whenever he would come home, he would see him? But in this, it just leads you to believe that he came home and he would see him, meaning in February.
Right.
And then they're very general too about exactly when the date was, 1st of February, how their terminology they're using is ambiguous to make it shady, right? And then when he says, this is another thing that kind of knocks your sock off, right? Why can't he say the last time he was there? What is so law enforcement sensitive about that?
Right. Tell me. I want the answer, Jennifer. I want you to tell me. Why? It seems so absurd.
That's the answer. I see it as to say, I don't want to answer the question, so I'm going to say they told me not to say it. That's how I read it. That's how I read it the first time, the second time, and the third time, and now. That's how I read that. I'm talking about the other interview where he said that, because come on, it doesn't make any sense to me as a law enforcement officer. Now, this is what makes sense to me as a law enforcement officer, and I always said this, no matter who I interviewed, I deplored them And things weren't as easy as they are now, right? This is a whole how things are with social media. It's totally different. But I would just tell everybody, I really don't want you to talk about our conversation. I really don't. Let's please, you're going to hinder the investigation if you start jabbering, things get out. Then I don't know if I talked to somebody else. Did they learn it from you? Or did they learn it from, knowledge, their own knowledge? So nothing. That's what I always asked. And that makes sense. But he's talking like a Jay about everything. But then he says they said that. It doesn't comport as being something law enforcement would say.
It doesn't. Yes, exactly. And so when I'm listening to him, because he does this all the time, like, again, he honestly thinks he's the smartest person in the room, and he, like I said, the unlikable factor of this man, I'm so sorry, drives me crazy. I can't stand these personalities myself. They're so full of themselves. They focus on themselves. Again, usually when you listen to lives, I remember the one live that they did. It was like a kumbaya by the fireplace talking about Sebastian, but it was more laughing, drinking, joking around about it. And it was just the most ridiculous thing, the way he's spoken about females, the way he talks is so degrading to females. He would be my worst nightmare for me if he came across me, my personality, because I just cannot stand those type of
people. Off the fence on this one.
But
are you really that way? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. When somebody has a strong opinion, I'm like, really, get off the fence here. No.
All my life, I like I said, this type of personality. I have an older sister that I have named Satan. She is a total Amber Heard personality, very narcissistic, into themselves. They focus on themselves. These personalities I cannot stand, honestly, because I just want to bring them back down to their own planet, and ground them a little bit. But I just cannot stand, especially when people are like, to me, Christopher Proudfoot is a very transparent bullshitter. He likes to think that he just tells the facts and tell it as he is. But that's the problem, is that he has not been honest in what he has said. So that is going to bring me back to another quick video that I wanted to play. And this one's in preface to the fact of the phone call to 911 to the sheriff's office. But my thing with this one, Jennifer, is about how it was said two different ways. So I'll just quickly play this.
Used, where the F is he, I had looked through the house for him because it was typical for him to get up and come and rummage for snacks and things like that. And he likes to dip behind the, walls and watch, and then he comes out after I come back and he likes to scare me. But after I looked, and I mean, mind you, all of this took place in like 1 minute flat, but I didn't see him in his room. I looked all over. I ran through the whole house. I looked out all the doors and windows, and I was like hollering his name. And I picked up the phone and I called my husband and I said, I can't find him. And he said, what do you mean? I said, he's not in this effing house. I can't find our son. And I jumped in my car and I drove around the neighborhood and I drove over by the school, and he's already at this point I was like hysterical and I was crying, I was screaming, and he was like three-wayed law enforcement and was telling them like our son is missing and we don't know what's going on, and he was like, go back to the house, they're on their way. And I drove back to the house. And
okay, so I'm gonna play this out. There's a little bit left to this one. So my point in this is that a couple times now during interviews, it was stated by Katie and Christopher that in the house is when Christopher Proudfoot called the police. So the discrepancy here is, well, but you originally said that you were driving around to the school, and that's when Christopher Proudfoot called the police. And so I'll just play that out, and that's what you'll see on the second one.
20 days later, we haven't found him.
06 something in the morning, Wife tells me it's kid's missing. So, all right, well, where, whatever. And told her to look this place and this place. She says not there, but she's freaking out. I said, all right, well, hang tight. I'm going to call law enforcement, whatever. I called the sheriff's department. Within probably 10 minutes of the call going out, units responded. First couple units that got there, I was not there when this took place. I just happened to know because I was on the phone the whole time and heard everybody.
I bet you Christopher Prophet could have an argument for this at some point with regards to something to himself, not Sebastian Rogers, to be honest with you. But my point there was that, so red flags always stick out to me when something is said, Jennifer, and then it's said differently in another interview. Now, this has happened quite frequently. With Katie, it was always it was like pulling teeth. She went from basically, we did this morning, but she would say one thing and then she'd skip right to the fact that he disappeared. And I'd be like, really? So Chronicles of Olivia was the most during the time was one of the most ones where she actually gave some more accounts. But with Katie here, it's been like freaking being a dentist and pulling teeth. Like, can you just say the timeline? Can you just kind of give us some idea? But instead you're jumping from here and then you guys are adding in a thump here, at 10 o'clock at night. But here what bugged me was she had specifically said that she was in Sebastian's room when Christopher Proudfoot was asking her, well, is he hiding behind the bed? Is he whatever? No, he's not here. 1 minute she says 1 minute flat. Another interview she says 3 minute flat. Okay, I can overlook that, right? People can, that's one of those things you overlook. But it's a fact of, wait, how do you go from saying that he called while you were in the home, then to another interview saying that you called from when you were driving to the school? Now, we all know that the phone call was like 6:33 in the morning to the sheriff's office. So if she was down there right at 6 o'clock and in 1 minute flat, she managed to go outside screaming to the neighborhood, like, can't find Sebastian, et cetera, and stuff like that. But hold on. But the police, they weren't called till 6:33. So obviously it didn't happen as fast as what it came across. But it's those little inconsistencies throughout this whole Sebastian Rogers case that really bug me. So your thoughts on that, or does you think it means nothing, that one is about being in a car as he calls 911 and the other is being at home?
One of the biggest thing you look at as an investigator when you're conducting these interviews is their thought process linear? That is typically a sign of truth. You don't really have to think to say, other than, remembering details, but you don't have to think to say, this happened essentially here, here, and here for the main events. So in other words, your timeline is typically linear. You're not straggling back and around. Once it starts becoming more circular or pulling from other areas, that is something we look at as being possibly they're not telling the truth. Also, when they're very focused on them, that's another sign. For instance, I don't know if you followed the Alec Murdaugh case, but it was a perfect example of somebody who the police show up and he says, oh, listen, I know somebody who really wants to kill him. And it's all about this boat accident that happened, and my son was driving. So, whenever that happens, it's a blaring beacon that somebody is not telling the truth.
Right.
Just something when people that normally are highly emotional, crying, they've just lost this thing that's so important to them, through their sniffles, they linear tell a story, and it's not about them or where they were or what they did. So for me, the bigger red flag are things like, then the inconsistencies, although yes, that's red flag, is I was doing this, I was doing that, I got in my car, I went to the school. You would normally not maybe so much try to paint yourself, that picture. It doesn't mean she's lying. It just is something you want to consider when you look at the totality.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Jennifer, just quickly too on that. Like, so I really hate it. And even though I've done this myself, like with my own son, I've said, because my son and I sadly have a not so great relationship since the divorce, sadly. My pride and my joy, my bundle of gold. But anyways, he needs to go through whatever he still needs to go through and stuff like that. But Jennifer, I did it again. Oh my God, lost my train of freaking thought. Hate it when I do that. It's because I'm overpacked with all this information in my head. What was I going to say to that, Jennifer? Shoot. Jennifer, what did you just finish saying to me? What were we just talking about?
We were talking about when you start talking about yourself, rather than you start talking about the victim. You're not talking about the victim and, offering up, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, maybe Sebastian went to the school or, sometimes he's this or, but why wouldn't he have it? You're more concentrated on them as opposed to.
Thank you. So my point being was that he made a comment, and these things bug me when people say this. I know what my point was now, is that when he said we would have heard him go out the window.
Oh yes, the wheeze.
I hate that. It's like Barry Morphew all over 2.0 on there. When they use words like we. Why would you say we? You weren't there. Most people, I don't sit there and say with me, if I'm by myself, I'm going to sit there and go, yeah, like we would have heard him go out if my husband wasn't even home. It just, those are oddities to me. Whenever I hear those things, like, why would you say we would have heard him go out the window? Oh, so was Katie right in saying that you'd seen Sebastian when you got home? Because I listened to that part, especially, and if it was generalized or not, right? And the thing is that she was directly asked about 2 to 3 weeks. So, and then she said, yes, he was home February 1st. And then he had seen Sebastian when he had come home. So like I said, I don't know, because I tried to look at it from all those angles, like you said, right? Was she meaning it generalization, or, is there some side untruth to this, or more that came out as truthful?
Did she slip? That's the question that needs to be answered on that February content.
Yeah. Did
she slip and accidentally say, but when he came home, he saw him?
Right.
That's the track of that conversation. So did she slip?
Right.
But again, I caveat this, law enforcement believed them. Did we know after April 2nd if they're believing them? We don't know. They believe them.
I was going to say, and I only because I know this is important to you. So because I know it is, it's a 1:41 video. And 1 second here.
Exhaustive search for Sebastian Rogers, but with few updates from authorities in recent weeks, some have wondered, is enough being done?
We're doing everything we can do. Every time a tip comes in, we follow up on it.
Eric Craddock is chief deputy with the Sumner County Sheriff's Office and heads up the investigation. He sat down for an exclusive one-on-one to talk about what they do when there are few new leads.
I think in the absence of information, what we'll continue to do is go back over everything we've already done once, put a fresh set of eyes on it.
To that end, Craddock says searchers recently found a pair of glasses, which they are checking to see if they belong to Sebastian. He says the parents continue to fully cooperate. Any evidence of foul play?
We have not cleared anyone, but we have absolutely no evidence to support foul play.
I asked about exclusive home security video obtained from the neighborhood the night Sebastian disappeared. You can see 2 suspicious light sources, which we've circled here in an area behind the teen's home. Since we first aired the video last month, authorities have said no evidentiary value.
It is of no evidentiary value.
Can you tell me what those lights are?
No.
Why?
Because the investigation remains ongoing.
And so it could play a role down the road depending on developments?
We don't know what we don't know. So yes, it could play a role.
So many are, of course, closely following this case. How difficult has it been, all the noise on social media?
Oh, the rumor mill on social media.
Okay, so we'll ignore the rumor mill, because I know this video means something to you, because so Seth again was on the channel, but we've heard him say it. So on the news article, so Seth had said that him and Christopher Proudfoot, they had seen the video, they've seen it in night and daytime, and that they were told it was a garbage truck. Seth said, "Oh, thank you."
$12 You're awesome. Thank you. What a great life. Thoughts on Millicent and Sebastian leaving the home?
On that. Okay, thank you so much, Chick, for that. So quickly, so going back to that, is that we all know that Katie said that he had a flashlight. Okay, that's the only thing that she said, basically, besides his glasses, that he had and whatever. So obviously, this flashlight video or whatever is deemed as a flashlight. Now, again, so they had went to whatever LE and they said that no, like, you know, we've looked at it. It's a garbage truck. At first, Christopher Proudfoot alludes, but he doesn't say exactly that it was a garbage truck. But Seth Rogers does, and he says it on an interview here, but on Foxville, I think it was, or whatever, and it says about the garbage truck. Now, so I know that you believe that there's something to this video with the flashlights, and possibly I think that's why, Jennifer, that's where the 26 comes in. You know?
Possible. All I can tell you is his messaging is poor here. And I always say they're working hard. They care about these cases. They don't sleep. They don't see their kids. They don't go home. They don't barely eat when all these investigations at the beginning of them. That's how law enforcement is. And I'm sure that is how Chief Deputy Craddock was. But here, just talk about inconsistent statements. He asked him, is this relevant? He says, no. But then he says, so could it be relevant later? Well, we don't know what we don't know. So it could be relevant. Well,
right.
We're not going to say. So that whole muddled message, to me, I think I just would have said, I can't comment about that video. I mean, he was probably livid that the video got out in the first place. If people want to believe that's a trash truck, I don't care what scenarios you look through at people on, you know, they've tried to recreate it and all of this. Make your own mind up from your common sense and what you see there. As far as the flashlight for Sebastian, I did want to say this flashlight that was on a keychain, I did get verified from one of the parents that indeed it was operable. A lot of people said he fidgeted with it. He might have, but it was operable. Also, we don't know, could there have been another flashlight involved? You know, it's not necessarily that little flashlight, but anybody who has ever lived in a place, I've only lived once in a place where light pollution wasn't allowed. No street lights. You would get fined if you had on porch lights, no lights, because people want to see the stars, right, in those areas.
Yeah.
So you can't have your fine for what they call light pollution. In those cases, at the smallest amount of light is amazing because it's pitch dark.
Right.
So I'm not discounting that it couldn't be the light they spoke of, that flashlight.
Right.
Everybody's going to have to make their own decision. If you think those two lights that go like this and then one goes back in and one goes back out, if you think those are trash trucks, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
The only reason why I believe that they were trash trucks is only because Seth, when he was literally asked that question, he had said that he was shown the video day and night, and that the LE showed him where the trash truck was, which was going down Kellen. So, but honestly, I don't think that those are trash trucks after the fact.
It's 3:10 in the morning.
Well, 2 hours difference, remember, Jennifer. It's actually at 5. Remember?
Oh, I'm sorry. The time change.
Yeah. Well, because whatever it was that that camera had stopped at 3:11, I believe it was, when it was a couple hours out. So, and the trash truck did come at 5:12, but so it was said that it was 5 o'clock in the morning that had happened, and that it was an Uber vehicle at 3 o'clock, our vehicle. But anyways, as for that video for the flight, it was more that it was at 5 o'clock area in the morning because there was a 2-hour discrepancy in the time.
Now, real quick on that point, because you can clearly see the time that is recorded in the
Yes.
top left-hand corner.
Yeah. Jennifer?
Because I might not know.
Oh, sorry, you froze. You froze. Can you re-say that to me, Jennifer?
Yeah, what is making you believe the 2-hour time frame? Who came out and said that? I know it wasn't Craddock. Who came out and said that?
You know, honestly, no, what definitely wasn't Craddock. Because I remember, and I can't remember honestly, because it has been a while since I paid attention.
And it wasn't Nick, the reporter.
Nope.
So my whole thing is,
you guys remember? Go ahead.
All I can look at is the demonstrative evidence I see before me, which is that timestamp. Are those always right? No, I always say all the time, did people adjust for daylight savings? But usually they're an hour off, an hour and a few minutes. I don't know why in the world anybody is saying it was 2 hours off unless a YouTuber or a PI has talked to that neighbor, and the neighbor said it was 2 hours off. And if that's the case, I have not heard that.
Okay, so because it was a while ago, but if I'm not mistaken, and I recently just heard this, I remember recently again, I think if I'm not mistaken, that Bobby, Binocular Bobby, I think they call her, which is the neighbor. So she had said that the camera was working on the day before and the day after, but on the day of that 26th or whatever, that the camera was 2 hours out. And I remember also hearing it, and I can't say, Jennifer, for this one, because I know that it was like a third party thing that said that they had spoken with the whatever. I had heard it already before, but if I'm not mistaken, it's Binocular Bobby, which is the neighbor that's kind of like the busybody. I don't want to say busybody, but you know what I'm saying. She's the one that's kind of like did a JLR interview. If you haven't watched that, maybe you should actually. But anyway, so it was that. So
she knew.
Pardon? Because she had spoke to that neighbor.
So
with the camera.
We have the neighbor that had the camera.
Yeah.
Talk to Barbie. Barbie.
Thank you.
JLR.
Yes.
That's what is, I don't know. For me.
Seth said it too, Jennifer.
And Seth said it too. Okay. I have not seen that.
Thank you. Because it was Seth that did say that, said that the time was stuck. Yeah.
Did he say that? At the same time he said it was the garbage truck? Because I can tell you in my earlier lives and shows about Sebastian, because I had heard it straight out of the Proudfoots and out of Seth that it was garbage trucks, I repeated that.
You know and so I was going to say,
it's what I see.
Do you talk to Seth?
Yes.
Okay. Do me a favor and do because yes, that was originally. I remember where I heard it. Then I heard Bobby say it, but you're right. It was Seth, and I can't remember if it was me watching him on the Pastel show.
It's Seth that was said that.
Yes.
I will look at that. That is not the information I have, and that to me is the biggest problem sometimes in the true crime community, right? Because something gets said, then it gets spun. The only thing I can ever believe is demonstrative evidence I see. I can believe when a source of something evidentiary says it, even if it's on air, I at least believe they believe that, right? So if that neighbor had come out, or if Nick, because his reputation would be on the line, came out and said, listen, he gave this to me and he told me, don't believe that 3:10 time frame. It's really 5, right? Then I could believe that. But even Sonny, if we believe all of that, which I haven't heard what I need to hear yet to know that.
Yeah.
Why does one light go right here, and then another light go here, and then the light, then they go together? How does that happen?
Well, that wouldn't take away from the time frame, that wouldn't take away, say, from the video, versus, because whether, or just simply whether the timing was off on if it was at 3 o'clock or say 5 o'clock. But if you have access, I mean, only because I've never bugged Seth that way, but if you have access to Seth on that, please clarify for me, because I just like to put out the facts. And
I'm going to, but when on my live, I read every single comment that anybody sent. Might take me a while, but I get through them. And I saw several comments saying that his flashlight didn't work, which also didn't make sense, because why would he leave in pitch black? Oh, just several comments were coming in that, hey, they said this. And again, it's the rumors, right? So I had to reach out directly. Did it? And then I got the answer back. Yes, it works. So I wanted to clarify that, because people aren't saying this because they don't believe it. They're saying it because they heard it, right? Like you said,
right.
Remember, there's a 2-hour time difference. It was really 5 in the morning, not 3 in the morning. I'll get that clarified. The other person who knows is Nick.
Yeah, please, whichever one clarifies it, because, and I think that's why I have said that, was because, like that person said, because I knew it come from out of Seth's mouth, and that's why, because I don't like to promote anything like you just said. Like,
great, I know you don't.
Yeah, because the like, for instance, like the flashlight, again, when somebody says it doesn't work, tell me who said that to you. Was it Katie? Was it Chris? Was it, or is it just a rumor off somebody's thing? Because I don't like that type of stuff, right? I that's what I want, is factual. So yeah, if you could clear that up for me, because it has been so long since he was on the live. Not that he said it on that live, but I know that it was because of him that's what, when he was talking about it, and I think it was in conjunction. But you can clarify that, no problem, with either Nick or Seth on that. So that I'd appreciate that for sure, Jennifer. Because of, like I said, that. Now, I know you need to get going. I know I've already kept you past your time.
Yeah.
I really would maybe at some point love to do this with you again, if you do happen to maybe like me just a little bit or a lot bit. I don't know. But I know we both have wonderful hair.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'd call my hair wonderful. My hair is hard to tame. It's a chia pet. It's a hot.
Oh yeah, it's a chia pet. Watch it grow. Water it.
I need to actually go get it done, get it smoothed out again.
You got great hair, Jennifer. So so before we get going here, oh sorry, Jennifer, if you don't mind, because you have to appreciate, obviously, no offense to anybody, but when people do, send in a super chat, it is best to acknowledge these, of course. We will let Coffindaffer know. Oh, will you let Coffindaffer know I'm fanning girl? I'm a fangirl. Please go buck up.
Much. I love you. With all the hate that oftentimes comes in from different people, it's so great to know that you're still supported, right?
Yeah. I love support with Steffa. She's kind of like our little expert in like the mental health side of things and stuff like that. And Ivy Rose, that kind of like have dealt with our work in the field. But just if you could answer this one, because she does a $12 click chick super chat there. What a great live. But just on the no scent of Sebastian leaving home.
Okay, so how I understand this is this. First of all, there were so many dogs in and out of there. Initially, I thought there were 5. Now I'm hearing there were up to 10. There were dogs that came in later, after everything had been done, days later, weeks later. So we know there's been a lot of dogs in and out. My understanding is the dog which I believe is Rex, that picked up on the scent that went and jumped in, actually, the little reservoir and the construction site, that is he did not follow the scent of Sebastian, but rather followed the scent of a human leaving that house and going. So I think that is also why law enforcement, via I can't remember right off the hand his last name. It's like Werner or Widener or something like that.
Wagner, I think it was.
He specifically said, we know of no scent. We know of no dogs following the scent of Sebastian. And a lot of times with law enforcement, they really talk to the letter of their words. And so I think he was doing that because we know it's false. If you've ever listened to the body worn camera, we know they were chasing a dog. Like you can hear the officer.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be barefoot. No, this print then can't be his. I'm paraphrasing here, but we know that a dog grabbed a scent and left. But it doesn't seem like law enforcement is telling us that that is the scent of Sebastian, but rather a scent. Could be, could not be.
Yeah.
And that's how I understand that.
You know, and thank you, Jennifer, because like I know like there's like the video, you know, in the restaurant stuff, and you know that they were showing and stuff like that, and like I said, time just kind of flies, you know, especially when you're, you know, there's so many things to this case that, you know, I have on my head and stuff like that. There's definitely stuff I didn't get to, but I got to the gist of most things that I want to talk about. Is there anything, Jennifer, before we go, that you personally wanted to say? Like, well, I want to thank you for being on here. I want to thank all the mods and everyone that is in chat, first of all, as well. And Jennifer, your again, her YouTube channel's up there. Now, Jennifer, just quickly, are you, if I'm not mistaken, I remember when you came out on Twitter saying, were you on like a podcast thing as well, like Spotify or something like that? Were you on, do you have one of those?
So I'm on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and then also, of course, on YouTube. And it's Break the Case with Jen Coffindaffer. And we go over many of the cases you go over. So, you know, anything big in crime, and even if it's not big in crime, if it grabs my attention, there's a lady named Kimberly Moreau who's been missing for 30 years. And her family reached out. I was so touched by that story because, like many people, this was, law enforcement thought it was a runaway and they didn't give it any attention. And she ends up being murdered, you know, and they've never solved the crime. They don't have the body. Everybody's dying because it's been all these years ago. And that case really touches me. So even if, you know, nobody really cares about that case, nobody's going to come on the live, I think it's very important to get people's stories out there.
Yeah.
And I sat in with them later on a FBI conference, law enforcement conference, just kind of trying to consult with them. I don't take any money for that. My advocacy is free, despite what I think that I'm, you know, getting paid all this money.
Oh, no.
So anyway, but that's what my channel does, kind of everything.
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, like I said, you know, at the end of the day, honestly, I just care what I do and how I represent myself, or, you know, my morals when it comes to doing things. Money is never, ever a forefront of anything I ever do. It's always about the victim, and it's just about being genuine to who I am as a person. You know, so I know that channels do whatever they want, whether it's for clicks and views or, you know, thumbnails that are deceiving and stuff like that. Hey, you do you, I'll do me. And I'm just like I said, I like what I stand for and what I do. And I know that you are too, that the factor is about, you could just tell that you care. And like I said, you represent these cases. And for anyone that says different, we don't care about you people. We just don't, to be honest with you. We care that you care about cases and want to bring them to light and stuff like that. Like you said, are cases that are colder and you want to bring to the surface and stuff like that. And they're done. Why are they done? Because they're done with the genuineness of the heart. And just being, like I said, a deep empathic person that cares about people, and the value of that. So that's said, Jennifer, I admire you myself personally as a female and strong female to another, but to the very caring side as well for that. Now, so for Sebastian, as we leave here, is there anything at all, like for Sebastian, I don't know, that you want to just say? Because I know it's about keeping the focus, and I don't know, just what would be your outro if you had to do it, Jennifer?
Yeah, the number one thing is for everybody, all your channel members, please, if you have any chance, put his picture up there. his name. If you have an opportunity, I know Seth, if you contact through Tony, please get flyers, get whatever you can to get their name out. He could be anywhere. So putting that up on a lamppost, putting that at your barber shop, at your grocery store could really mean something. So anything you can do to get Sebastian's name and face, that is the number one thing I would try to impart on everyone here.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? And again, I want to thank Nick the Hat. I want to thank At Night. I want to thank Jennifer Coffindaffer. I want to thank Dog the Bounty Hunter. I know some people are not fans of S Investigates. He kind of reminds me a little bit, somewhat of a Christopher Proudfoot, to be honest with you. But again, awareness to the case is really what's important. Like I said, whether your channel that maybe is more on rumor-based stuff and a bunch of drama, either or, Sebastian Rogers. Again, Jennifer, my question to you on this one, last question. For Sebastian Rogers, okay, if he was to be found, whether that was be alive or not, do you think it's going to happen in the year 2025, or do you think this could be a potential, like, Summer Wells type case where it's just, don't know?
I very much think it could be a potential Summer Wells type case, but I hold out hope that it's a Connor Jack Oswalt case, that 2.5 years later he will somehow be found. So I keep the hope.
That's one that walked away, right? They like he just walked away, then they found him like
2.5 years later, another state. He'd been all over the place. He was about 16 years old or 17.
Yeah.
I think he was 17 when he walked away. Yeah, I keep out that. I keep out the hope. The difference with him was, I think there were different sightings and things, but all of that aside, I keep hope. I keep hope.
Yes.
The way, my biggest, really, where daily we follow crime is at Coffindaffer FBI on Twitter. It's always lively. Twitter's a different animal. Love everybody out there. I love, all the true crime people that go in and out of Twitter. It is lively, let's just say. But if you're looking for interesting information every day, hopefully you can come on our platform, Coffindaffer FBI, because it's not only me saying, it's lots of different people.
Yeah, is that what it is right here, right?
Yeah.
You're on Twitter. Yeah.
There, because that is just at the forefront of my brain when I think about true crime every day.
Yeah.
So I'll keep them up there until that trial is done. So it's probably going to be up there for years.
Yeah, I got in the Idaho case too. Yeah, my goodness. There you have Sebastian and stuff like that.
I guess that was my last tweet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what? So I was going to say, so Twitter is like, so I'm not this overly big techie person in a sense, but yet I can create videos and I can do this stuff and I can do certain things. But Twitter is like my second baby besides YouTube. It's kind of like that my little space that I somewhat know what I'm doing a little bit. Like I'm not like a TikToker. I'm not, after you get old, I'm 55. I'm 69, baby. After you get old, after freaking Messenger happened, I had to force myself to know what Twitter and all this stuff was, because society has changed, Jennifer, of course, since Jennifer, I'm not sure if you remember this one, but there was the first Messenger I remember was called ICQ. Do you remember that one?
No.
Nope. So, and it meant I seek you. Anyways, so that was the first one I remember when computers were coming out and stuff like that. But, with all this Twitter and Snapchat and all this, but I do love my Twitter and stuff like that. And, and like I said, I was looking at a bunch of at night stuff as well yesterday, for the Sebastian Rogers case. I'd honestly I kind of tried looking him up and I was like, oh, like at night. But anyways, went to the computer, finally found him yesterday. And then I was like, oh, sweet. So I went to bed about 5 o'clock this morning, Jennifer, because I was listening to your live again. And I was going through all of his stuff. And yeah, so again, Jennifer Coffindaffer, sorry, your handle is Coffindaffer FBI at for that one. And then, but yeah, anyways, Jennifer, I've taken enough of your time. In fact, don't hold it against me, please. But thank you so much for joining the live today. And I'm so sorry, guys. Usually I'm more inclusive to reading comments from the section. But honestly, I'm not going to lie. I was pretty much hogging Jennifer's time because there was a lot more still that drives me crazy about this case. So hopefully a lot of those things that if you were wondering about them, they got answered. And Jennifer did, again, a live the other day where it was, what was the live called, Jennifer, the one that you did? Seeing it through the...
It's something like what everybody wants to know. Meaning
Yeah,
what everybody wants to know is where's law enforcement's head on this.
Yeah.
Get through that.
All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much again for joining us in your time. What's your next thing on your list that you're doing before we go? Like, are you doing anything on News Nation, on Court TV? Are you doing another live soon, or what you doing next?
Well, I have a segment coming up on Court TV next week, and I should be on Court or on News Nation this weekend. Those are my major items, and then I have 2 docuseries projects that I've just finished filming for 2 separate ones. One is on the Idaho case, and then one was on the missing mothers. They called it the 2 women were massacred and knifed to death and thrown in a freezer and buried. Just a horrific case. And so we finished a docuseries on that too. One is coming out in, I want to say soon. I want to say February, March. And then the other one on Idaho is going to come out when the trial comes out, I think. Although I think the trial will be postponed, so I don't know if it'll come out before then.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? And so this is why I'm very appreciative because, like I said, I don't usually bug people too often. It's very rare, but you're such a sweet lady, and to literally be as busy as you are, and I know you're extremely busy with everything going on, and yet you still manage to go on YouTube channels and just honestly, you're like the Energizer Bunny that just doesn't stop, really. You know,
how you said that? My family calls me that.
Oh, do they?
So funny you said that. It just came up when we just got back in town, literally a few hours ago. Anyway, they're like, so anyway, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Well, okay, I get. I don't want to take up no more time. It's been a pleasure. You're a wonderful lady. I thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you, everybody, for everything that you do in regards to cases, regardless if it's Sebastian's or not. But please share and like this video if you don't mind. Again, awareness is always what's important to this, and prayers that Sebastian does come back home, and or at least there's some answers to Sebastian's case at some point in the near future would be nice. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Jennifer, for that. And I'm just going to go to my outro, and thank you for the super chats. All right, ready? Ready, Jennifer?
Ready.